Okay, unfortunately I wrote this a little too small and there's a little confusion. Some people are too far away to read that well, and I couldn't read it back there either, so yeah. If I can't read it, it's too small. Okay, so here is x1. Now we want to find f of x1. What is f of x1? It's the value of f when x equals x1. Okay, that's what f of x1 means. So if I say f of 2, that's the value of f when x equals 2. To find that, when we have a graph, well, we have to find the point on the graph that corresponds to x1, right? The x-coordinate x1. And that's going to be the point on the graph that intersects the vertical line here, because this point has coordinate x-coordinate x1. And another way to say this is the point x1, f of x1, right there. It's the only point on the graph of f of x where the x-coordinate is x1, and that's, of course, what f of x1 means. F of x1 is what you would get if you plugged in x1 for x in the definition of f. Yeah, whatever f is. Okay, so we really need to understand this, and I'm probably going to throw out some supplementary problems because I see evidence in some of the homework that not everybody understands this as well as I would hope. Okay, so we want to correct that. Okay, so you need to think through a little of this, but once you get used to it, it's an obvious idea, but it has to click. Okay, and for the for this class or even for the larger class, I don't see it having clicked for everybody. Okay, so there's our point x1, f of x1. Well, what is f of x1? It's the y-coordinate, right? How do you get the y-coordinate of this point? Well, you project over to the y-axis, and then if you have a scale, you can read off the number, right? Whether you have a number on the y-scale or not, though, this value on the y-axis is f of x1. Okay? It's f of x1 because that's the value of y when x equals x1. Okay? So, here's x4. So this point is x4, f of x4. Right? Has to be, because this is the f graph, and on this line, the x-coordinate is x4. Okay? So over here, obviously the y-coordinate is f of x4. And then you can do the same thing with x2 and x3. Okay? So I'm not going to label those, but you should. I don't want you to take time right now to do it, but come back to that and make sure you do. Okay? Now, my question is, well, let's make sure we have that, and then I'll pose the question.